Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're taking a look at Russia, trying to understand what's going on there through all these news stories and social media posts, and even some like price comparisons that you guys have sent in.
Yeah, it's like, all these little pieces, like
Exactly.
a puzzle.
Yeah, trying to get the bigger picture of Russia right now.
See, the forest for the trees, or maybe the Kremlin for the reptilians.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I mean, where else could we start? But this story about Medvedev, former Russian president, claiming that reptilians are running the show.
I know.
What's going on here?
Well, it's definitely attention grabbing.
Definitely got our attention.
And I think that's part of the point. This is part of a bigger trend we're seeing
Okay.
from Russian officials, like information warfare, where they're trying to create chaos and confusion.
So they want to make us all wonder what's real or not.
Exactly. So it's harder to pick out, well, what's legitimate criticism from maybe some Western propaganda.
Interesting. Makes you wonder what else they might be trying to distract us from.
So, okay, let's move from reptilians
Okay.
to something a bit more down to earth, or maybe not. Lukashenko, the Belarusian president, is claiming he has healing powers.
Yeah.
He can even cure hemorrhoids, apparently.
Oh, wow.
So what does this fit into all this?
This is a classic example of a leader using like symbolism and folklore to try to make themselves look better,
Right.
build up their image.
Right.
Lukashenko's been working on this strongman persona for years.
Yeah.
And claiming he has supernatural powers just adds to that.
Yeah, but does that really resonate with people in the 21st century?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. A lot of cultures still have a really strong belief in folk remedies and the power of, charismatic leaders.
Okay.
So he's tapping into that and creating this story where he's not just a politician,
Right.
but almost like a savior.
Right. Fascinating how these stories tell us about the political landscape.
Mm,
Okay, so let's talk about something a little different. Protests in Kursk.
yeah,
Looks like people are really feeling the pressure, not enough government support,
right.
especially with all that's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, these protests are a sign that the economic and social pressures in Russia are increasing and people aren't afraid to speak up even if they know they might get in trouble.
Yeah, and from what we're seeing, the government's response hasn't exactly been supportive,
Right.
calling them illegal protests, shutting down websites, and basically trying to silence any dissent.
Yeah, a pretty worrying trend. It shows that they're scared of people speaking out against them and trying to control what people are saying.
It's a reminder that even voicing your concerns can be risky in certain political climates.
Right. Definitely. And it makes you wonder what that means for,
For people who live there.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about these protests in Kursk, the government trying to pretend things aren't bad,
Right.
but we've got these price comparisons from our listener. Things are getting really expensive in Russia.
Yeah. Inflation is a real problem. It might not be in the headlines,
Right.
but rising prices make it hard for people to just, live their lives, buy what they need.
It's a tough situation because on top of all that,
Yeah.
Europe's trying to move away from Russian gas, which is a huge hit to their economy.
Yeah. The EU deciding to stop using Russian energy is a big deal. For the economy and for politics,
Right.
it weakens Russia and makes them more isolated.
So pressure from the inside with the protests in the economy,
Mhm.
and pressure from the outside with sanctions.
Yeah. And then you've got Erdogan in Turkey trying to change the constitution so he can stay in power longer.
Okay, but what's that got to do with Russia?
Well, it's part of this bigger pattern we're seeing.
Oh, you mean all these strongman leaders popping up?
Exactly. Putin and Erdogan have done a lot of the same things to hold on to power, get rid of checks and balances, silence the opposition.
And that's not good for democracy.
No, not at all. It's a worrying trend.
Okay, so back to Russia. What about those, like, smaller stories
Yeah.
that show just how weird things are there?
Oh, yeah, those are something else. Like, you've got a mayor who's always insulting people, and he gets an award for, get this, good communication.
What?
It's unbelievable. And then there's Lada, the car company. They're selling cars cheaper in Belarus than in Russia.
Oh, wow, what's up with that?
It just makes you wonder, right? What are their priorities?
Yeah, good question. And then there's Mariupol, which is just heartbreaking. People who lost their homes in the war are now getting utility bills for those destroyed homes.
It's crazy. It shows how out of touch the system is with what people are going through.
Right.
Like, they're just numbers, not real people.
Yeah, it's awful. And then there's that pediatrician, Nadezhda Buyanova, who might go to prison for criticizing the war. That's scary stuff.
It really is. Shows how dangerous it is to speak out in Russia right now.
Right. You can get in trouble even for talking in your own home.
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing is that it's really important to look past the official statements and the news headlines.
Right.
These small stories, they show you what's really happening.
It's like all the stuff they don't want you to see.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can all feel a bit overwhelming, right?
hmm
Like, what can you even do when things are this messed up?
I think the first step is just knowing what's really going on.
Okay.
We need to understand like all sides of the story, not just the official version.
So for someone who's trying to figure all this out, what would you tell them?
Don't believe everything you hear, especially from people who are trying to, you know, push their own agenda,
Okay.
whether it's the government or the media or even people online.
So basically, think for yourself.
Yeah, check things out. Don't just take things at face value.
It's like being a detective, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to look for clues and figure out the truth.
And be open to changing your mind if you learn something new.
Absolutely. That's how we learn and grow.
Okay, so we've gone pretty deep today.
Yeah, we have.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the negative stuff,
Yeah.
but there's also hope.
Hope, really.
Yeah. Look at the people in Kursk protesting for change. Or the people in Mariupol rebuilding after everything was destroyed. There's resilience there, you know?
The belief that things can get better.
Exactly. And that's something we should all hold on to.
I like that. So keep learning, keep asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
and never lose hope.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
We'll see you next time.